All right. Good morning, everyone. This is episode 76 of the Unsecurity podcast. The date is April 20th, 2020. And I'm Evan Francen. Joining me is my co-host, Brad Nigh. Good morning, Brad.
Hi. So it says in the notes.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
So much enthusiasm. Hi.
It was nice out this weekend. I actually got some fresh air, not stuck in the house.
There you go. It's Monday morning. A little too much enthusiasm, I think, for a Monday morning, but we'll get to that.
I'll tone it down.
Yeah. All right. We have a special guest. Let me give you a little background about this guy. I'm pretty excited that he's here. He's a global business and technology leader with more than 20 years experience building enterprise innovative solutions. He's guided many organizations through successful transformations, but arguably none more difficult than the one he's currently facing with COVID-19. He's currently working at Flight7, a global travel company, and as you know, the travel industry has been decimated by the pandemic. His name is Serge Suponitskiy, and he's the CTO, CISO. For those of you who don't know what CISO is, that's Chief Information Security Officer, and now the interim CIO at Flight7, Americas region. Welcome, Serge.
Thank you, Evan. Glad to be here today.
Did I get that all right?
You got it all right.
You're actually three chiefs right now.
I say two chiefs. The third one, listen, I'm not too, I'm not thinking about that, but it's really the CTO and the CISO. So, the history goes that I was actually just the CTO, and a little bit of a background. So my previous boss, we've been talking about finding CISO for a long time, for more than a year. And then we started that process probably sometime in September of last year. And we were looking everywhere. We had our own recruiting teams. We had, recruiters from outside. We've seen so many resumes. We've seen people coming to our office. And then sometime in December, we sit down and we said, listen, security is becoming extremely important for this organization. And we made a strategic decision that I will be moving to that role full-time somewhere in January. Mm-hmm. And that was the decision, that I was going to be working with a global team, setting up a regional security program, best in class security program. And then things have changed. Things have changed since then.
A little bit.
I still have my CTO role. I now have the CISO role. And, I'm just working with a lot of people handling this COVID-19 situation, just like everyone else. Everyone's got different scenario, different ways of dealing it. Everyone's got different situation, when it comes to work-wise. So, anyway, glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy you're here, man. Now, have you seen my slide decks from the talks that I give?
I did.
You're my Russian friend.
Thank you. And you're taking me on you used to take.
Still do.
Yeah, you still do. All right, great.
Yeah. And I tell everybody in every talk that I give, if you want to be in security, you need to have a Russian friend.
And maybe Chinese. Which
I have that too. Leslie's picture's on there.
Yeah, I have Leslie. Leslie's still there. Thank God.
I'll show you the slides later on. But again, welcome. We're going to get to talk to you more about, kind of what you're going through and all that good stuff. What we normally do in the podcast, and it's customary, is for just us to catch up, right? So before we jump into the meat of the show, let's catch up. If you're a new listener, you might not know the first motivator for us starting this podcast at the beginning. So that was 76-ish weeks ago. I wanted to do this so I could spend an hour every Monday morning with Brad catching up. So that's what we do at first. So Brad, tell me about your weekend.
No, it was good. Got outside, uh, fresh air. It was nice out. It was kind of nice to, get some stuff done and get out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah. I was working on a garage, my garage, making a man cave. I mean, women are allowed in it too. It's just, we call it a man cave.
Yeah, it was cool. Our youngest, is in kindergarten. He's been struggling with this transition, right? He's 5, and they need that routine, I think, at that point. So school's been a little bit of a tough thing for him, and his teacher actually lives in the neighborhood and walked by and did a little bit of like a social distancing visit, though, just to check on him. And his attitude it went from like just kind of cranky and a 5-year-old to like you could just immediately see him get happy. And so it was really cool of her to do that. So
Cool.
it's amazing what this is doing to everyone.
Yeah. It's wearing on people for sure. Serge, what about you? What'd you do this weekend? You been out riding the bike?
I wanted to ride my bike yesterday, but it was a little bit chilly. My friends always laughing on me. They say, hey, listen, Serge can only ride if the temperature goes above 50. 50 degrees, then I'm out. It was above 50, but I didn't have it. So instead, I actually watched a really great documentary about Marco Pantani, who is a really good Italian writer in the late 80s, 90s. And it's a sad story. I mean, really, really great writer who was one of the best writers of all times. And then he was caught up with this, era of doping. Yeah, it was the name of the movie. It's Accidental Death of Cyclist. So he died at 34 from, drug overdose. But he was, he wanted to join professional cycling, and his mom was so happy about him, and he said, "Nah, I want to quit." And she goes, "Why?" Because it's like a mafia, and the whole documentary about the money, the power. So it was an interesting movie. That's what I saw. So I didn't go biking, but I did instead watch that interesting documentary, Marco Pantani. That's the
Okay.
name.
And was that on Netflix?
It's on Netflix, and it's on. You can find it on YouTube as well. It's kind of a free documentary, very good. And then I walked with my family, did a couple of circles here. My son refuses to go with me. I mean, he's 17, so it's definitely I can hear him playing with his friends. They do different gamings. But my daughter, she's 14, and my wife, I mean, we do regular walks around the area. So yeah, and then my wife was cooking. I was watching that. I was trying different things. I mean, that's one of those things that she started picking up during this COVID-19. We were so always busy running around, but now, I mean, you're reading, you're listening. Oh, you need to learn one of those hobbies. So my wife picked up. I mean, I always knew that she knows how to cook and she wants to cook, but now she really is cooking. It's amazing, amazing.
So
So
there's a joke, or not really a joke. We always call you the mayor of Montvale, New Jersey.
well,
New Jersey's been hit really hard with COVID, right?
yes.
What's it like? What's it like in Montvale?
Yeah.
City of Montvale, we have 67 cases of people that got coronavirus. 67. We have 5 fatalities, and we have 120 negative cases. So every week, and at the end of the week, our mayor Mike Gazali, who's running for Congress, he's posting on Facebook those stats. We also have regular phone calls, meetings. I mean, so I'm trying to help as much as I can, but there's a lot of other people that can actually help this community, and there's a lot of communication, and Yeah. So I'm not a mayor, but I do know a mayor, you know.
Yeah, that's the running joke though. We always called you the mayor because you know everybody in that town. So
Uh,
Montreal, how many cases?
So 67 cases, positive cases, and five fatalities. And but the next city to Montreal. I mean, it's like one town after another town, right? So we have Park Ridge, which is right next to it. Remember, you and I, we used to go to Italian place, Bellissimo.
Yeah.
So right between that Bellissimo, I mean, it's probably a minute away from Bellissimo, the town called Park Ridge. So they have elderly senior citizen place. So they just posted that 33 people died in that place. You know, it's crazy.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been spending more time at Home Depot. Uh, so the good thing about Home Depot is it's the aisles are wide
Yeah.
and it's not much of a social place anyway, so it's easy to kind of stay away from people.
Are you wearing a mask yet, Evan?
No, I don't know if I can get a mask over this beard of mine.
Dude, I know. I was looking for that. I'm gonna use the fishing gator, like the spandex, right, sunblock, and then you put like some strips of like a t-shirt or something in over your nose and mouth. That's supposed to be good, and that's instead of actually doing a mask. It's like a little bit cooler because then I can have my.
I think my wife's like one of her cups of her bra and strap that around.
I'm not sure that's gonna work, but
All right, whatever.
Yeah, but in New Jersey, I think in New York for sure.
yeah.
Jersey, I think as well, it's a must. You must wear a bandana or something, a mask when you go to any store. I think it's a must.
I saw there's a couple in I think California, maybe San Francisco or something as well. I think it's going to become more common.
Yeah. All right. Well, I invited Serge to the show for a couple of reasons. First, I really do like the guy. We spent some good quality time together. I got to know him really well. He's one of the people I admire and respect. The second reason that I invited him was to get his perspective on dealing with COVID-19. We're here in Minnesota, where things are different. We work in a different industry, you and I, Brad, versus where Serge works. Serge works in the travel industry. And it seems like everything in the travel industry is just turned upside down. There's hardly any travel, if any. So he works for a company called Flight Center. And I did some consulting for Flight Center as your virtual CISO in the Americas region for about a year and a half, maybe. I grew such a love for the company and the people there. So I wanted to, Flight Center really is a great company, and it's just, crazy what's happening. So wanted to get your perspective, Serge, on kind of what you're going through. Think back to, just prior to kind of things flipping upside down, what were you doing then? Were you guys planning on, 2020, it's going to be a good year? And what?
2020, 2025, yes, planning. The company was, we were the largest travel management company in the world with 5 line of businesses, destination management, corporate leisure, wholesales, and students with 20,000 people globally. In Americas region, and we traded on the public Australian exchange. In Americas region, we had about 3,800 employees. Globally, we have 35 brands in Americas region, which is Canada, US, and Mexico. We have about 15 different brands, everything have changed, I would say, in my kind of world, in our world, after March 13. This is the date, and I remember very clearly that was Friday, the March 13, business as usual. Everybody's like looking at the news and reading the news, and we're talking about it. And but March 13, Friday, I was sitting in the the World Conference Room. I mean, you probably remember when you walked in on the left, like it's one of our kind of like a boardroom. So I was sitting there, and it was 12:25. We just finished a meeting. I was sitting there by myself, and all of a sudden my CFO, Peter Stone, comes in and said, "Serge, in 5 minutes, let's meet at the Lido deck." And Lido deck, this is where we're making the kind of a company announcements and stuff like that. And our PeopleWorks HR person, vice president of HR, Sue Brennan, she picks up the mic, tells everybody, and I see everybody's coming from left and right, and there's a TV on, and Trump is on TV. So I'm like, oh, we're just gonna watch the president's live addressing something. So no, they turn off TV, and Sue Brennan got up on the chair and said, we just been notified that one of our employees got COVID-19, got coronavirus, and everyone, as of right now, everyone goes home. So that was Friday the 13th. So the person actually that was diagnosed positive was not in the building for at least a week. So the person, the last day of that person in the building was Thursday, March 5th. But what happened since then, it was like a panic. I've seen people, you've been there for a week, but now all of a sudden people just start grabbing things and running away. I mean, it was a scene. So anyway, I had to have an emergency meeting with our executive kind of a team to talk about, okay, who will have access to the building? Because we still have mail coming in from the post, the kind of mail coming in. There is still few things that, some people that were not in the office but had computers but need to pick up computers. So there is a lot of logistical things that we needed to kind of work through. So we did that. So since then, since March 13th, since March 16th, in Montvale, and Montvale office is about 350 people, but we have 300 offices across America. So we have about 150 offices in the US, 150 in Canada. So fine, since March 16th, we are in Montvale, the headquarters for US, everybody's working from home. And, we'll talk about it, but we had no issues for people working from home because we moved everyone to the cloud 3 years ago strategically. We've tested a lot of different things. So we have tech stop and people able to work from home and do their work. That's not an issue. But we start thinking about all other offices, other people. So it was all start getting very coordinated. And I say that by the end of that week, which was the March 20th, pretty much everyone in the organization started working remotely, which is fine. And our first kind of response or the thinking was, listen, it's all about our customers and safety of our customers, as well as the safety of our employees. That was kind of number one priority. So we immediately, kind of since then made a decision that all offices will be shut down and people will work from home. But at the same time, we had situation where, for example, one of the line of business, the student universe, for example, all of a sudden we had students, and we're dealing with all the universities, with the government shutdown and university shutdown. All of a sudden they needed to get home from all over the United States, from different parts. So we had 5,000, at one point we had 5,000 students on hold in queue waiting for our agents to help them out, 5,000. So what we did immediately, so any agents throughout the organization, even if they were not familiar with the particular line of business, student universe, for example, but they were with Liberty Travel, and they've used different technology, but they all were able to help. And we made some changes, but it was all about our customers and safety of our customers. And we were just helping everyone, and everyone worked as one team for the next 2-3 weeks, helping people to get home, to get from different countries, or, cancel different things, different events. We had grouping, we had, people, groups that, that book travel to go to Europe or Asia. And so I say for a month or so, our people were working, just taking care of all customers from different line of businesses, just to help them to get home, to get safe. And we also have other, kind of information sources like security sources and stuff like that. So we were pushing a lot of information to our customers, making sure that they save, secure, that they find a place to either stay or move. So that was kind of the priority of since the March the 13th. That's when the world kind of changed upside down for our organization. At the same time, while we, we were helping, I mean, we knew that our revenues, our cash, liquidity, everything will be going down, right? So since then, the liquidity management or cash management is probably became #1 priority right now, especially right now, because we shifted immediately from a strategy where it was all about winning to all about surviving. So when we talk about strategy, strategy to me is one, it's always to win. Now the strategy is all about to survive. At the same time, survive, but win when things will turn around.
Right.
So,
Well, it was crazy because Flight7 was such a high growth company.
Yeah.
From acquisition, I mean, just the time I was there in Americas, you had acquired, a half dozen companies.
We growing, we were growing organically as well as through mergers and acquisitions. So the acquisitions, yes, we acquired some companies. We made some strategic investments. Upside was the recent one that was the owner is Jake Walker's, the guy who started Priceline.com. So we have 25% of investment there and partnership. So we were on the high growth. Our corporate line of business is booming. We have brands like Corporate Traveler or FCM, where we compete with American Express and other big names in travel industry. And, we have very solid, good kind of a customer base, large customers, medium-sized customers, and small customers. And we were doing well. We're still doing good. On the Corporate Traveler, on the corporate line in the corporate line of business, there's still some work that is happening, especially, listen, every company, they have travel department. Yes, the travel is stopped, but they planning for things to turn around, and they are still, sending us security questionnaires, right? They want security, especially during these times. So things still happening, but no, definitely not to the same extent that we used to be. So we've done some definitely, we put some controls in place. We've been, the message and the communication during these times was so important, and it's still so important. And we're doing different videos and postings and communication all the way from our CEO to then kind of a regional management and so forth. So we put some controls in place, and we think that we could potentially survive. I mean, we're really looking and thinking about surviving right now in this kind of situation and coming out, possibly in the kind of in a different way. But that's what we're dealing with. Yeah.
Well, and it's like you said, it's, winning. I mean, can you come out on the other side of this better off than your competitors, and, the stock price for Flight Center on the Australian Stock Exchange towards the beginning of the year, right? In January was $40.
Yep.
Today, this morning it's at 10.
Oof.
It was 7, and we kind of hold on the whole trading thing. I mean, now it's 10. It was 40, but 2 years ago it was 70, 72, 75. Yeah, so it is a big Australian dollars. So, but big difference, huge difference. So again, as I said, right now we just dealing with cash, liquidity management on the daily basis. I wouldn't say the week; it's almost daily basis. We're looking at everything, right? So two of the biggest expense, like your expenses, your cash, it's the payroll and your leases, right? Your locations. So we made strategic decisions on the locations, and we're still working through that. But we will. I mean, it's publicly announced. We're going to be closing close to 580 stores globally. So it's announced. And in terms of people, I mean, we reduced globally by 30 to 40% globally. So furlough, permanent, all that kind of, there are different permutations, different, but at the same time, I mean, we're working very hard. We have a task force that kind of dealing with different petitions and government subsidies. I mean, we have like a task force that really working and following every single news, every single paper that we need to fill out so that we can help our employees in different regions, different countries. So because Canada making decisions that are totally, not the same that in the US or Mexico or Australia and so forth. So we're trying to work very hard with kind of in following the government news and adjusting our positions based on that.
It's going to be such a fine line to walk between, surviving and then when this when travel starts resuming, being able to actually handle the demand, right? Because there's onboarding and ramp up time for staff, and
it's different.
Tough.
Yeah, we're looking at competitors. I mean, if I, we're reading same news, we're reading same reports, same economical advisors. We're looking at the IATA, which is the regulation of kind of our industry, and looking at all the possible reports and data, and hoping. Everybody's waiting for one thing: when things will start changing. So on the weekly basis, different reports based on what our president says, what the local governors are saying, how they cooperating, the data. So it's changing on the daily basis, right? So it's a new way of working, new way of kind of living. But at the same time, in my world right now, I'm trying to provide a firm kind of a direction and normality to employees that's still within the company, in my department. Basic things like, it's almost like I'm going back to basics, which is, okay, guys, in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, let's have problem management. Hey, every Monday, Wednesday, let's have change management. Let's follow up our incident management process. As a matter of fact, yes, there was an incident. So we follow our usual process. So it doesn't matter, you in the office or remote or virtually, trying to bring that normality through following same process, same methodologies that we put in place before, but with less people. We have, less people, people actually working longer hours, more work, because you have to pick up some of the work that the people that not there. But I think communication, pretty much on the daily basis to all employees is right now essential. It's really communicating the short-term goals, mid-term goals. I wouldn't say long-term goals, but I would say short-term and mid-term goals is very, very important right now. And communicating them through, a virtual happy hours or, virtual all hands, or we utilizing tools such as Workplace. It's Facebook product. So we utilizing and communicating through that channel, pretty much on the daily basis.
Yeah. So everything's changed, right? We furloughed. There's lots of things that you covered right there. So one is, in any incident, it's so important to control the message, right? So you talked about controlling the message. That same thing needs to happen in just an incident response, right? This is obviously a much higher, bigger impact, but also you had to let go large numbers of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then to Brad's point, you're probably going to need to bring back in large numbers of people when you're through the other side of this. And security still needs to be taken into account, right? You still have to keep things secure. Attackers are still attacking. You mentioned you're still getting security questionnaires on a regular basis from your customers. It's a tough, you're in a tough spot, man.
It's a tough one. 2 months ago, exactly 2 months ago, when still things were going well and fine, I visited our two partners. Sabre, which is a global distribution center. It's one of the largest global distribution center, that we utilizing. And I've met with and Concur, that's another, our strategic partner. And I met with their CISOs, and we talked a little bit about the departments, the structures, the incident management, the different things, the tools that they use, and how can we work closely and better together. So on the security questionnaires, what was interesting, so I asked them, what's their process? And what I was surprised is that the large company, well, maybe not surprised, large companies, they can afford to do things manually. So in other words, to me right now, I'm looking at things and the things that we've invested and did for the past 2-3 years, and we were really driven by cloud first, automation second. Those were like really ingrained with all my guys, with all my leadership. And we were looking at every single possible opportunity to invest more in the cloud and invest more in automation and everything, every process to automate. In this right now situation, the COVID-19 is automation is key. The reason for that, because Brett, you mentioned, yes, we have much less people, but because of the automation, well, security questionnaires, here is a perfect example. We invested in a tool, and it has AI component, it has autofill component. We've built a library of 1,500 answers. So every time we get questionnaires, it's loaded automatically. Well, we have somebody who's loading, who's supporting BDMs, and then we just click autofill and we do the spot check. That's, to me, automation, where I spent some time with some of the larger, our larger partners, and I was kind of surprised that, that they do these processes manually. And again, because they can probably afford it. We, on the other hand, we had a even though in the Americas region, and before Evan joined us, our maturity was very poor. So Evan helped us dramatically bring us to a totally different world, and we've utilized the methodologies and the tools that Evan brought in. So we on a totally different level, and the team was happy, and we were building a program and team. So now that team is drastically reduced. So we kind of moved into a maintenance mode where we're building, where we're investing, where we're thinking 2022, 2025. Now it's really maintenance, really maintain, not to lose, but maintain what we've built with limited resources. And I think automation is key. Automation when it comes to, not just security, but everything, onboarding, offload, just onboarding process. It was so manual. I mean, now we automated. Like, for example, everything is in the cloud for us today. We invested in certain tools that automatically shutting down machines. It's like the whole orchestration is happening. So we would be drowning right now if we did not invest for the past 2-3 years in those technologies. We would be drowning right now. I didn't even know how we would be able to function. So the past 2-3 years, we've invested strategically into those things. But again, we wanted to, as I said, we wanted to win. We wanted to invest and do more things. So for example, one of those things, our clients start asking more and more about SOX 2, ISO 27001. They've been asking us all the time. Well, we had plans. We've had several conversations with different vendors, consultings. So it was on our roadmap, 2022, 2025. Now everything stopped. We had about 79 projects in the pipeline. Everything is on hold. There are only strategic projects, strategic investment that we've made. I mean, we're going to keep and move forward for now. Yes, it's, I would say, yes, when the switch, or not the switch, because that transition of going again, restarting that business will take some time. It's not going to be a switch. You turn it on and all of a sudden tomorrow everybody's going to start traveling. So I think we're going to be ready. I mean, this kind of automation, and right now, every meeting that I have with team, I'm talking about automation even more. I'm telling them to think and look around at things that we've done for years, and what are the things that we should change. Things that we're doing today and that just doesn't work or it doesn't make any sense. What do we need to change? So those are kind of discussions that we're having right now on a daily basis.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, the other plus with automation is, it's done the same way every time. You don't have 5 different people doing it 5 different ways. As long as it's set up correctly, you're set.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Serge. It's awesome, man. I love the perspective you bring, and I think our listeners will certainly get some tips and tricks out of what you said. The story, from, Friday the 13th, never forgetting that day. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on this show.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to talk some more. So I want to point out, hell of a guy. I'm glad you're my friend, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to do what we did together. And I'm sure, at the end of the day, everything is going to work out.
Everything will work out.
And it's hard to see it sometimes when you're head down and all this crap that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
All right. So switching gears, one of the things I noticed last week, I got this email, and I got this email from Qualys. And what caught my attention was, Qualys' response to Rapid7 false campaign against VMDR. VMDR is one of Qualys' products. And so as I read through this stuff, it reminded me of a middle school fight. It's like, these aren't adults. These are like kids fighting each other. It's just so stupid for our industry. So on the show notes webpage at evanfrancen.com, I've got the screenshots of this email that I got. And this is from the chairman and CEO of Qualys inviting me to a webinar to rebut Rapid7's article that they had written that said it's time to quit Qualys, 10 reasons why Rapid7 is worth the switch, right? So it's just this crappy, stupid marketing thing. And so, but these things get under my skin because who really suffers at the end of the day is the people who are supposed to be served by us in our industry. Our job is to serve and protect people. And we're supposed to be a lot better than this. So what I did is I wrote this kind of short post for, on LinkedIn. But, Chris Roberts is a guy who's, I think, he's got more, I don't want to say, well, I don't know.
Maybe more exposure, maybe?
Well, and he's got more gumption, more like, I don't give a shit. Excuse me. I don't give a crap what you think about me. So I ran it past him first and then posted it. And then he posted, shared my post and, added his words to it too. But it's an interesting story. I don't know if you guys had seen this at all.
I hadn't, but it's like, I'm with you. Come on, really? And it's not just them. Look at all the stuff that's going on. Like we've talked about Zoom in the last couple of weeks. Like everybody's lost their minds,
right,
about like what's responsible and how to act like an adult.
Right. And are you that insecure with yourself or your product or your service that you really feel like you need to respond to this?
Yeah. Wouldn't a better response be like, we're not going to take the time to justify this or whatever? Like, feels like they're escalating the situation. It's like dealing with my daughters are 12 and 14, right? And constantly quit escalating, just walk away, because
Take the high
before
road.
you escalate, come on.
Yeah, so Rapid7 threw that first punch. And in there, and I got a link to it, on the show notes where they've got, it's time to quit Qualys, 10 reasons why Rapid7 is worth the switch. So if somebody had written this about me or about our company, would I really feel like I needed to respond? Would you?
No.
It talks about risk-based prioritization as one reason, research at the core as a second reason. And
Look, it's like, really, neither of you have any flaws. You're going to start throwing stones and throwing accusations.
Right.
You're just opening yourself up. And why do? I don't get it.
Well, so then Qualys responded, with their title is, so they put out this thing on Eventbrite and everything. It was going to be a webinar. Qualys response to Rapid7 false campaign against VMDR. And then the LinkedIn post, I think it's funny to see what people's responses were. I think Chris Roberts' LinkedIn post alone has I don't know how many comments right now. Well, probably over 50 comments. And you read some of the comments that people make, and it's like, it's just funny.
Yeah, I think, like I said, everybody's just lost their mind. Maybe being stuck at home and isolated. I don't know, but it's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, it's what not to do, I think, in our industry to help people, right? It's not to infight, because you have to think about, us in the industry. We know Qualys, we know Rapid7, we know what's good, about what's good and what's not good about either product, But what do people outside of our industry think about us when they see stuff like this, behavior like this?
Yeah.
The people that we're actually trying to help, right? I mean, we've got about 1 million people now in our industry, 1 million security people who probably have heard of Qualys and Rapid7. And then you've got, just in the United States, 320 some odd million people who've probably never even heard of these companies before, right? And if they catch wind of this kind of infighting and this stupid crap, does that help?
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't hear other companies do it. you don't do this. Like, can you imagine like Microsoft and Apple, like the direct competitors, doing something this petty?
Right. And that's a perfect word for it. It's petty. And you actually used to see this back when Microsoft and Novell. Do you remember those
Yeah.
days?
Yeah.
Serge, do you remember Microsoft and Novell and the infighting they had back then with the file and print?
What year was that? I don't.
Oh, it would have been
Late 90s.
mid-90s, late 90s. Yeah. It got so weird that Microsoft would actually send limousines over to Novell's headquarters to try to recruit their developers to come work for Microsoft. At least that's a story. I don't know if it was actually true.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Google was involved in all that too.
it definitely took some stuff from Novell, put into AD. There's no question.
Right, but what one was a better product? What one was not necessarily even a better product at the time when you took Novell Directory Services and Microsoft's first entry into directory services, but what one was marketing, strategy. To Serge's point, strategy wins. Planning wins. Novell kind of sat, I think, and just didn't do a good job on that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Whatever.
It's petty, but it's petty stuff that makes, I'm a product agnostic guy. You use the best tool for the job, right? And I think stuff like this ends up making my job just a little bit more difficult when I'm talking to normal people. If they hear about stuff like this or know about the pettiness in our industry.
And it leaves, there's really only 3 scanners out there, for the most part, right? You got Tenable, Rapid7, and Qualys.
Yeah.
I mean, by default, Tenable is going to come out of this looking great. Just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. Stay out of the scrum.
I don't get it.
It's so it's interesting. I mean, if you want to read along if listeners want to read along with kind of what went down, and I haven't heard anything after that, but it's petty, man.
Yeah, the damage is already done.
All right, and it did remind me of a middle school fight. I don't know if that was probably the last time I actually got into a physical altercation was when I was the last sober physical altercation. I quit drinking, a while back, but it was middle school. All right, just one news story this week. IT services giant Cognizant is hit by Maze ransomware. Did you read about this?
Yeah, that's
It's a big one.
That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, so this, the article that I referenced is GB Hackers on Security. It's written April 19th, which was yesterday. IT services giant Cognizant hit by Maze ransomware cyber attack. I didn't realize how big Cognizant is.
Yeah.
300,000 employees.
What's going to be interesting is what's going to happen. I mean, think about how many customers they have and what happens when those customers get ransomed, regardless of if it was their fault or not. Who's going to be facing all the heat? Right.
Well, there's a pretty interesting background on this particular attack. According to Under the Breach, on Twitter, April 11th, a threat actor offers to sell access to a huge IT company for $200,000. Then April 17th, he closes the thread saying it's not relevant anymore. And then on April 18th, Cognizant suffers the ransomware attack by Maze. So the one potential, I guess, theory is, Maze bought the access to Cognizant.
Yeah.
If you put these things together, is that kind of what happened? Was somebody had obtained access to somewhere inside of Cognizant for $200,000 on or about April 11th, offered it for sale for $200,000. 6 days later, they closed the thread saying it's just not relevant anymore. Maybe Maze bought that access and launched the attack.
You know, I would be surprised given the size. My guess is they were in there before, and then when they saw that come out, they went, oh, time to execute because somebody else is going to come in. Which we've seen IRs where there's competing threat actors because you see completely opposite things. You're like, this makes no, and you figure out it's two different things. But
Yeah.
that's my guess. You don't. There's no way they dropped it that fast. You just don't see that happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it could have been that Maze was already there and then saw that somebody else was selling access potentially to the same company that Maze was already inside of, like you're saying. And so like, well, we better launch now before we lose our opportunity.
Yeah, because what's interesting is on their Cognizant public speaking or
Announcement.
whatever. Yeah, tough. It's early Monday. They said that based on present information, we don't believe the reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic or their Cognizant's efforts to enable associates to work from home facilitated this incident. So that leads me to believe that they've found something that indicates it's been in there for a while.
Yeah.
I mentioned a mention about the incident last night. So that was actually regarding Cognizant. We're using Cognizant for certain things. So we start having a communication and doing certain things, shutting down a few things. We started that on Friday evening or Saturday evening. And since then, there've been tons of phone calls. So I'm also part of the Society for Information Security, where all the CIOs, CTOs, we have our network. So I was on the call with a few CIOs from different other companies. So an interesting thing is that some CIOs, I guess it's interesting how when things like this happen, large organization like Cognizant, how do they decide what information, who to get on the call with? Like, okay, do they break it down into, okay, we have these largest customers that pay X amount and let's get on the call and talk to them. And then these vendors, middle tier or a low tier, we're just going to send it's interesting how their communication flows, because we, for example, we getting much less information, Flight Center, than some other companies that are larger size than like we are. But CIOs, CTOs in the back, and CISOs, we share the information behind the scenes and talk to each other and sharing. And I'm seeing that some companies got much better information of what needs to be done and what can be done versus us, and we still waiting. It's amazing how this communication. I was on mute. You unmuted myself.
I can't hear Evan.
Oh, Evan, I can't hear you.
There we go.
Oh.
Yeah, it sounded like you were on the surface of the moon.
Oh, sorry about that. Listen.
Is that me, or could you hear it too, Brad?
I heard it too.
But you're back. You're back now. It might have been Maze ransomware.
Yes. So.
Yeah. Well, did you see the announcement on Cognizant's their press release? I think it's not the way to respond. It's essentially three statement. Cognizant, this is what they said. I'll read it verbatim. Cognizant can confirm that a security incident involving our internal systems and causing service disruptions for some of our clients is the result of a Maze ransomware attack. Our internal security teams, supplemented by leading cyber defense firms, are actively taking steps to contain the incident. Cognizant has also engaged with the appropriate law enforcement authorities. We are in ongoing communication with our clients and have provided them with indicators of compromise and other technical information of a defensive nature. Did you get any of that, Serge?
Yeah.
That's a lot of words saying nothing.
A lot of words. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
As I,
it doesn't make me feel confident.
yeah, as I mentioned before, when you talk to different other companies, different CISOs, CIOs that also affected, because a lot of customers now affected, like had to do certain things, shutting down things, I do see that some companies getting a better information and some companies getting much less information.
Right.
The risk is the same.
It'll be interesting to see what the fallout is from Cognizant. Now they're located in Teaneck, New Jersey, and Serge, you got to leave. Great
Yeah.
having you on, sir. We'll talk. We'll catch up again later. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Thanks, Brad. Thanks,
Take
Evan.
Nice to meet you.
All right. So yeah, they're located in Teaneck, New Jersey, which is right next to where Serge is. Really, it's not too far. Their global headquarters.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see fallout from that for a while. It'd be actually kind of interesting to watch and see how many lawsuits are filed against them from this because of their customers getting infected.
Right. Well, in the middle of all this other stuff, right? You
Right.
talk about all the things that Serge has to deal with right now, with just trying to survive, and then this. You just pile it on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough.
All right. Well, we'll talk. We can. I think that one's going to linger on for a number of weeks, so we'll probably have more fodder
Yeah.
there for a while.
Yeah, it's still new.
It was great to have Serge come on. I really enjoyed his perspective, but man, he talks a lot.
It was really interesting to hear that side of it, though. I like it was nice. Plus, like you said, I didn't have to talk as much this time.
Yeah, it was really cool. I loved it. All right, well, that's it. Good show. Thanks to Serge for joining us. Lots going on this week. We continue our daily insanity check-ins. Everyone is welcome to join us. If you want to know how to do that, just go and go to evanfrancen.com, look at the show notes, and you'll see how to do that. We also continue the CISSP Mentor Program with classes on Monday and Wednesday this week. Brad, you're teaching tonight.
Oh, yeah.
You ready for that?
Sure. Just hoping I stay awake the whole time.
Just think about how many people, though, that we're helping, man. It's so cool.
Awesome. It is really awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, this will be good.
Yeah, and then Wednesday we've got Ryan Cloutier. I said it right that time. He's teaching on Wednesday. I get the week off this week.
Yeah. That'll be nice for you.
Yeah.
And then you get like a long break because we have our first break next Monday.
I know. I'm not complaining. I need it, man. Look at this face. I've got bags under my eyes, man. I could use it. All right. Shout out time, Brad. Who do you want to give a shout out to?
I think just, the team, just keeping going and keeping positive and taking advantage of some of the unexpected free time with customers, kind of moving things back as they get resettled and getting some internal projects done and updating some templates and just staying productive. It'd be really easy to just kind of check out, and we're not saying that. It's awesome to see.
That's cool. I'll give a shout out to Brandon. I thought, he really stepped up last week. I don't know how many emails he had to respond to with the CISP Mentor Program. Just getting everything coordinated. That was really cool. And a shout out to everybody, all the friends that I had made over at Flight Center. Some of them are still employed at Flight Center, and some of them have been furloughed or, laid off. But shout out to all those guys, because they were seriously a really, really good, they still are, but a really, really good company and really, really good people. So shout out to those people. All right, well, that's a wrap. Huge thank you to our listeners. Episode 76 is about to go in the can. We love hearing from you. If you've got something to say, email us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you'd rather do the whole social thing, feel free to follow us on Twitter. You can find me at Evan Francen. You can find Brad at Brad Nigh, BradNigh. And you can find Serge too. He's at Serge Sup, SERGESUP. And that's it. So we can talk to you again next week.